Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Biohacking Beauty podcast, where we explore the intersection between technology, wellness, health, and obviously beauty. I'm your host, Amitay Eshel, co founder and CEO of Young Goose, the world's first biohacking skincare brand. And today we are joined by a very special guest, Alyssa Blue from Align Matt. Alyssa's journey from an aerospace engineer to a wellness innovator is as unique as it is inspiring. After facing her own health challenges, Alyssa stepped away from her engineering career to focus on healing and understanding the human body, and her work as a functional diagnostic practitioner nutrition practitioner, and her extensive research in physical modalities, including Pilates and some other modalities, have led her to develop the Align Mat together with her co-founder, which the Align Mat, as far as I experienced it, it's a revolutionary wellness tool that integrates advanced technologies like PEMF therapy and far infrared heat. In this episode, Alyssa will share her insights about PEMF frequencies and what led them and what kind of stood in their mind when they created the Align Mat, but also how these technologies can affect anything from first of all, how do they work? How do they affect our body? We talked about how they can improve our overall health and promote longevity. And we also spoke specifically about their benefits to skin health and appearance. And obviously, we also looked at counterindications. So I loved this conversation. It was great. We took a lot of interesting twists and turns, and we talked a lot about science. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Before we begin, I would like to read a review from one of our fantastic listeners. So someone says, I loved some of the recent episodes, including that on spermidine and cycle-syncing skincare. Incredible source of science-backed skincare knowledge. Love the deep dive into the research and interesting topics. Thank you, Synchro Girl. Appreciate that. If you haven't done so already, I would urge you to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Your support helps us continue to bring insightful content and amazing guests like Alyssa to you. Now, without further ado, please welcome Alyssa Blue. Welcome to the Biohacking Beauty podcast, Alyssa. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I met you in Vegas about a month ago, I would say.
I can't believe it's been a month already. Time's flying.
Yeah, and you guys have the Rolls Royce of PEMF mats, I feel like.
Thank you.
I mean, to be honest, I've had many experiences with PEMF mats. You definitely took it like one step ahead, and that's why you kind of got invited on the podcast. Aside from the fact that you and Mike, your partner, are like super cool people, and we love helping incredible people.
Thank you. It was amazing connecting with you, and we don't believe anything happens on accident. Serendipities in the universe are what they are, and super excited to have this conversation and appreciate the appreciation that you have for the tech. It took a long road for us to get here, 2.5 years of R&D before we even decided to manufacture. So, yeah.
Yeah, so actually that's what I want to start with, not necessarily with the long road, even though it could be part of it, but I want us to talk a little bit about the function aspect. What is PMF? How it works? Why do we need it, etc. Maybe we could start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So PEMF stands for pulsed electromagnetic field, and it is a therapeutic modality that helps the body do what it's already designed to do. Because every moment of every day, our cells, healthy, brand new, beautiful cells, are replicating in our body, but we have a finite amount of energy available to us in our body.
Hmm.
So PEMF is basically in the form of this mat. It's a whole body. Our mat is actually 6'3". It's one of the largest mats on the market.
Yeah.
So it puts the body in a bubble of these healing frequencies that help the body do what it's designed to do better.
Hmm. And okay, great. That's fantastic. And obviously, um, that is very important. I just had a conversation with Natalie Nidham the other day, and we said, you can take every organ, you take the whole body, whichever one you choose, and there are two different things that you can do with it. We can concentrate on organs. Let's say we want to have better skin. Yeah, we can talk about the gut and why the gut can help us have better skin and how the gut kind of makes the skin age, but these are not one of the same. First, we need to make sure we kind of deal with whatever check engine lights we have on, right? And then maybe we can use that organ to improve skin health or whatever we are interested in improving in improving. But first we have to address all the check engine lights. So it's very important in as far as like my perception of what you're saying is, first we need to allow the body to heal itself, or we need to support that healing mechanism. So, how does energy exactly help that, or what exactly do you mean by a healing bubble?
So the body decides in the hierarchy of importance based upon survival what it chooses to quote unquote heal or focus on giving energy to first and foremost.
Hmm.
Um, we are wired for survival. So even though we
Yeah.
might want to heal our skin,
Hmm.
that kind of pales in comparison to keeping air in our lungs and keeping our heart beating, all of that. So there is definitively this hierarchical needs that our body will follow in order for survival. So once we have those needs met and we have again enough energy to do so, it will deviate the reservoir of energy to go heal hair, skin, nails, focus on reproduction and digesting food, all of those things that what might be really important to us, but our body thinks are very much secondary. So as far as talking about specific PEMF frequencies, so our mat has actually Schumann frequencies in the mat. So it's the only mat on the market that actually focuses on native earth frequencies to heal the
Hmm.
body, or rather having the body heal itself. So what Schumann resonance is basically, if you to talk a little bit about the science, because most people don't mention like what it is. They measure it, but they don't know where
Hmm.
it comes from. So basically there are waves that are sent from the sun that hit the ionosphere, that bubble that protects the earth, and that's
Hmm.
positively charged, and it comes down to the earth in the form of lightning strikes. So everywhere on the earth, about every second of every day, there are about 2,000 lightning strikes that hit the earth. So it
Hmm.
comes from a positive charge from the ionosphere to a negative grounded charge on the earth. What happens to our body, because we are animals no different from any other animal walking on this earth's surface, is that we are getting
You just hurt
grounded.
some people's feelings, by the way.
We're,
I'm kidding.
hey, we're a special species. I'll tell you that. We've adapted and we're here. There's no accident
Yeah.
again that we're here and we've survived. If we want to talk about Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest,
Hmm.
we have adaptation. We're kind of at the top of that hierarchy as we're talking
Yeah.
about. So
Okay. So, but we're animals. We're walking around.
So, this electron exchange that happens when we walk out, when we step out on native earth, like soil, grass, we're not talking about cement, we're not talking about any of these man made surfaces like asphalt. But when we are
Hmm.
barefoot, not in rubber soled shoes, and we connect with the earth, there's an electron exchange. So, this is physics, this is
Hmm.
beyond biology. This energy exchange that happens so fast that we still cannot measure this.
Hmm.
And this is so important for our bodies that back in the 60s, there was a professor that took a bunch of his students actually underground in the bedrock and separated them from this Schumann resonance. And within about 30 days, they were experiencing malaise of all sorts. He put a Schumann resonance meter in that room underground in the bedrock where they were, and within minutes, all of their symptoms went away. This
Wow.
grounding 7.83 hertz, this Earth's heartbeat frequency that resonates with every one of the organs of our body.
Uh-huh.
So the reason why this is so important is because we are living so disconnected from our environments. We're working indoors now. In the last 3 years, more people are working from home and not leaving their houses. And we're living this very ungrounded life where we're not getting out in nature and reconnecting barefoot, not on rubber soled shoes, and having these native earth frequencies. And there is a direct correlation for all cause it dis-ease, so a body not at ease,
Hmm.
all cause diseases that people are experiencing from basically us being animals and our disconnect connection from this planet.
Uh-huh. So what I'm hearing from what you're saying is basically is that, kind of connecting to what we said before about, having our systems function correctly before we try and harness them to whatever we want to achieve in the end, is that we are living in kind of a dance with the earth. We've evolved um, to evolve. We've evolved to live and rely on the earth in more ways than to supply us with the food that we eat and the water that we drink. We also rely on it for other type of, I would say, electromagnetic needs that we have.
We
Um,
are as connected as our finger is to our hand to this
yeah.
planet. So we are humans on this planet. And yes, with all of that being said, like we cannot remove ourselves from the environment. Like you
Yeah.
said, that there are so many modalities and things that we can. I'm first and foremost a functional practitioner. So
Hmm.
a lot of the things that I leverage in my practice for my clients doesn't cost any money. Getting
Hmm.
sun, blue light in your eyes, enough sun on your bare skin, creating vitamin D naturally, getting your bare feet in soil, and having, again, this electron exchange and grounding the body. There's so many things that we can do to support our well-being. But with our fast-paced life, I mean, I think we are busier now than we've ever been before in
Yeah.
society. So making time for ourselves to do that may seem really challenging. So what my partner and I have sought to do is create tools to help people do this without leaving their apartment on the 40th floor in a Manhattan skyrise.
Yeah. Absolutely. And connecting to that, what is the but they could walk down and walk on the grass. We
Yeah.
hear Gary Brecka talk a lot about him living in some high rise in downtown Miami, and he
Hmm.
has this thing that he walks around the neighborhood at a certain time of day. So maybe breaking it down, we have a PEMF mat, and before we get into some benefits and stuff, like, is it one to one the same as walking on soil? Is it slightly different? What is the different in biohacking? What we try to do a lot is kind of harness the good and discard of the bad. So how can we quantify it as opposed to you know being in the beach or walking on soil?
So that's fun that you say walking on a beach because that's actually what we liken the feeling of the mat to. Even without the frequencies on, there's
Hmm.
30 pounds of globally sourced stones in the mat from mines that are coming from Brazil, Mongolia, Turkey, the Middle East. Like that was possibly what took us the longest to actually secure sources to get the stones in the mat and to be able to have the quality that we wanted that separated basically our technology from everything that's on the market. And we tell people the negative ions that are produced from these natural minerals is
Hmm.
like walking barefoot on the beach. So sand is silica, and these minerals are no different than the minerals that we need in our body: magnesium, sodium, potassium, things that create these electrical charges in
So
our
you can
body.
eat the mat. That's
You
what you're
cannot
telling
eat the
me.
mat. You're not going to eat beach sand either, but they still have these minerals that very much benefit our body, whether they're going in our mouth or we just are in
Yeah.
contact with them and experiencing that. So whether the mat's even plugged in or not, you're getting the benefit of these natural stones.
Hmm.
So
Okay. But again, coming to the back to the question, would 15 minutes walking in the on the beach would it equate 1 to 1 exactly 15 minutes of being in laying on the mat?
Quantifiably, like, I as a scientist, like, I
Hmm.
haven't done those that research, and I don't know if it's quantifiable because we are all so different in beings as well. So, what one person feels when they're getting this full experience of walking on the beach, looking out in the distance,
Hmm.
breathing in the salt air, as opposed to just laying on the mat. I mean, maybe someone is too sick to walk outdoors and they just need a space where they can just lay and be. And that might be more healing than them than expending the actual energy to go drive to the beach and go walk
Yeah.
barefoot and do all of that. So it's going to be a different experience for everyone. So it's not like scientifically quantifiable as a one to one, but we were trying to mimic it as closely as possible to bring that experience into people's home to meet them wherever they're at, whether they're a busy mom of three or someone that's elderly and really just is limited in their mobility.
Yeah, it's funny because it, in olden times, not really in olden times, like 100, 200 years ago, that's what you used to do when you're sick. You used to go to like a place that's close to the ocean, and you went there to get better from the city,
What a
which is,
concept, right?
yeah, it's pretty crazy. But they were called. I mean, again, I'm translating from Hebrew, and God knows what Hebrew was translated from. So I probably am butchering the actual term, but it was called like a healing house where you'd
Mhm.
go there, and that would be your, you would basically biohack, but in zero equipment of like 200 years ago, right? You're gonna sit in front of water, have your feet in the sand, and whatever else they were doing there.
We're all for it. This whole holistic blending of
Hmm.
ancient wisdom in modern technology is really, we're trying to have this interplay where we can be successful in a modern life, but not forgetting the fact that those things, like, why just go to the ocean when you're feeling sick? Like, why not actively incorporate forest bathing, which the Japanese have done numerous studies on
Hmm.
anxiety, depression, and things that it actually, all of this natural setting, whether it's mountains, forest, ocean, they help heal the body because they make
Yeah.
us feel good.
Yeah, 100%. I think most of the people, I mean, I have so much to talk to you about the concept around PEMF, but I feel compelled to kind of drive in the point that most people look at themselves as this, as a human, as this finished organism. And I do too, most of the time. But if anyone read Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, Jordan has this very unique way of driving home a point where he starts like 100 miles in another point and somehow reaches his point, right? And he starts his point about entering a room with a tall posture. He starts it with how how hierarchy in lobsters is cemented, and what happens to the lobster's posture when he gets when he loses or when he wins. And so, but connecting to your point about forest bathing and any type of interaction with the environment and with the world, 98% of us is not human. 98% of us is an amalgamation of all of our different incarnations of evolution. And what's crazy about it is that we never think about it like that we need nature as much as orcas need nature, and that's why they don't live as much, or they have very different characteristics when they are not, when they are in a tank.
Mhm.
Sorry to ruin someone's day, when they're in a tank for their entire life,
Yeah,
or how different species uh, don't live as long if they're in a zoo. Joe Rogan has a joke. It's only the giraffes that live longer. They're like, another day without a lion.
a docile
So,
creature.
yeah.
They're just not getting their predator. The predators don't get to them. So are they
Yeah.
living longer because they're actually, like, the quality of life is enhanced?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
but
there's
you
this.
see, my point is that we really need different aspects of nature because they are a part of what sustains us as an organism. And it's I love about biohacking are tools that are saying, hey, I want to be that ultra, achieving this high performing individual, but here's a way I found to completely hack that organism need for a specific input from nature, right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of where PEMF is. um, Going into that technology, what is some of the things, yeah, okay, let's say we convinced the high performer that wants to move on and stop hearing me wax about our relation to trees. How do we talk to them about the benefit for overall well-being and longevity? What are we seeing from research with those Schumann frequencies, with that grounding and longevity?
So PEMF frequencies in general have been studied for the better part of the last 50 years, predominantly focused on pain reduction,
Hmm.
whether it be arthritic pain, fibromyalgia, and autoimmune pain, wound healing, bone knitting, at different intensities and different hertz frequencies. So NASA has done plenty of published research on it, PubMed documents you can find on it. Um, so focusing on that, like what going deeper than pain, what is the onset of that, like the body not having enough resources to balance out that pain. So what is really happening when someone is on the mat and at a low intensity, so our device is a low intensity mat.
Hmm.
It's not, there are other devices on the market that you can actually, like, you'll feel the pulses and you'll be shaking on it, and those come with those inherent benefits and some risks, and that's why they have practitioner training to utilize
Hmm.
those devices. Ours is great for everyday use and multiple times a day. You can
Hmm.
even sleep with our device when it's at the brainwave frequency setting, so it's going to be in alignment with those delta, the slow delta wave frequencies for deep sleep.
Hmm.
The biggest benefit, so we're in this modern society, we've been talking about how humans are running around busier than ever before.
Yeah.
We're living in this chronic state of sympathetic dominance. So, this is when the nervous system is at an elevated level of stress. And this is great when we're running from a tiger. And you've probably heard about this a lot. But in our modern day, that tiger is us sitting in traffic, it's deadlines at work, it's feeding the kids, it's whatever it is that's we're trying to meet these needs that keeps us in this chronic nervous system elevation that doesn't allow our body to, again, digest food properly, reproduce, and regrow hair, skin, and nails. We're talking about
Yeah.
beautifying ourselves, and we're actually aging ourselves quicker by trying to meet all of these demands and deadlines. Stress, a little bit of stress is great because our body becomes adaptable. But when we're
Yeah.
living in this chronic elevation of stress, it's taxing on the body. What PEMF devices, these low intensity devices, do, what the Align Mat does, is helps the body within seconds shift from this I'm running from a tiger state to a nervous system state called parasympathetic, where the body is in rest and digest. So
Hmm.
when we're relaxing, our body again digests food. So it helps with nutrient absorption, it helps open up blood flow, it helps with oxygenating the cells, and again delivering energy where it needs to go in the body to help it heal. So we're not shunting these processes, we're helping align them.
Yeah, and actually, we can see it in blood work. And actually, people, if they are really nerds, they can actually kind of order. I don't know if you can buy on Amazon, like a microscope, and they can take a
Yeah.
drop of their blood, and they can see what happens when they're not discharging that energy. And when they do, the blood looks completely different. There is a clumping of blood cells, red blood cells in our blood when we're holding on to that energy and we're not able to discharge it. Whereas normal blood cell, okay, and what happens is that the smaller the diameter of blood vessels, the capillaries
Mhm.
become, it's harder for those clumps to travel, so we're not feeding the destination of
Yeah.
blood vessels, or we're not feeding skin, for example, whatever, muscles.
Mhm.
And when we are discharging that energy, we can see how these blood cells travel individually. They can kind of slide one next to the other, much better, and they can obviously penetrate those small capillaries.
I love that you brought this up. We have a friend here and she does blood microscopy. So we are going to be posting like before and after use on
Hmm.
the mat and showing what the blood looks like. Because, yeah, there's a definitive difference when you can see the blood healthy, full, oxygenated, not coagulated, and how that travels through the body instead of it being clumped up and not oxygenated, not delivering nutrients to their end destination.
Yeah, and to connect to that, we people normally love our podcasts about red light therapy, which is great. I mean, when I started in red light therapy, 15 years ago, uh, everyone thought it's snake oil. So it's great to know now that's like a topic everyone's asking about. But having said that, why is red light therapy good for our skin? First and foremost, it's not because it increases energy. It's not because it multiplies the mitochondria. Not because it helps us with thermoregulation. Not any of that. It actually is because it increases nitric oxide, which allows our skin cells to receive more oxygen. And we can go on and on and on. Like the a lot of the uh, off-label use of actually blood flow medication is for better skin. So, having said that, we can understand how super important good blood supply and good blood movement, if you were like red blood cell movement, is for better skin health.
Yeah, I mean, there's an infrared component in the mat as well, which
Hmm.
is just outside the visible spectrum that turns that red light into
Hmm.
infrared heat.
Yeah.
And that's also dual fold. So it helps the body relax. You feel calm, soothed, you're warm. So it's relaxing the muscles, it's deeply penetrating into the body, and it's helping to, again, deliver oxygen to its end source, the
Hmm.
nutrition supply. It's helping that cell detoxify more effectively. So, yeah, there's a lot of benefits within this electromagnetic spectrum beyond just visible red light.
Yeah, and one of the things that your type of infrared, which is mid to far infrared, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
a lot of people, including me, by the way, uh, if you asked me 15 years ago, I would tell you that doing too much of it is going to increase reactive oxygen species or oxidative stress. But what we see is the same way as being in an ice bath. The same thing as doing um, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It is the elevation of a certain stress that has the body responding in kind of almost like a rubber band type of way, where the
Mhm.
body overcorrects and gets us into a better state. So what we're starting to see is that mid and far infrared, which we correlate with heat rather than near infrared, which we correlate with energy, is that we actually lower oxidative stress in the body, or free radicals that are
Mhm.
taxing the system in the body, which obviously is incredible for skin. That's like one of the main things that we are trying to do in the skin. Every antioxidant serum that we sell or anyone else sells, that's what it does. So there's another incredible benefit there. I do want to ask you something about you mentioned the different wave pattern that, or different wave
Mhm.
length that you could use with the mat. So
Mhm.
if I understand correctly, you could kind of choose what exactly you're targeting when you're laying on the mat.
Yes.
Okay.
There's at a broad spectrum from what like we can talk about without being like a class 2 medical device.
Yeah.
The mat helps for relaxation and recovery.
Uh-huh.
Within the spectrums, if you're looking at specific brain waves aligning with that for cognition, clarity, meditation, deep sleep, there are specific brainwave length frequencies that you can tune the mat to. So
Hmm.
the mat in itself has settings from 1 to 30 hertz manually that you can actually go 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 30. And then it has 8 specific Schumann resonance programs. So when we're looking at someone that's, you're talking about elite performance athletes that are chronically stressing their body out, to have something in the higher spectrum, that 39 hertz frequency, which is the highest hertz frequency Schumann program that our mat has. Again, it's a native frequency, earth frequency that our body recognizes and familiar with, and we use sine waves exclusively in our mat, which is the most studied. And it's also, think about like ripples in a pond. It's the
Mm,
most natural frequency that, again, our bodies have evolved with. So we're
mhm,
readily absorbing these frequencies into our body, so it's having a greater impact. But something at still an extremely low frequency like 39 hertz, it's high enough to help with reducing the inflammation load in the body. It's helping the body produce mitochondria more effectively. And it's all doing this because of that nervous system state shift that's
yeah.
happening. So, taking the body out of stress, whether it's someone that, again, performing at an elite level, or someone that's dealing with chronic inflammation, maybe from an autoimmune condition or otherwise, that they can take their body out of that level of stress and stop for a moment. You don't have to know how to meditate or do breath work or anything specifically on the mat, which I think is really beautiful from a lot of other integrative technologies, or even leveraging just breath work and meditation. That's a practice. The frequencies are going to go into and through the body, regardless if you know how to do holotropic breathing, or you're,
Uh-huh.
transcendentally, tuning to the universe. So you can sit there and have a conversation with someone. You could be watching TV. It's something, again, that can come into anyone's home or an office or a clinical setting, and they can still derive benefit from it just by turning the frequencies on.
Yeah.
And I think it's been so underrated that people haven't really, it's starting to gain more popularity in the general market space now, because people just haven't known the benefit of PEMF therapy.
Well, I love what you're saying because of a different, I would say, like, concern that I have, coming from that space, that wave space.
Hmm.
Um, what we see, and we can say, by the way, in most devices that use waves, since their systems are most of the time don't have the capacity of creating a wave that is very natural to the body. Normally, it is a binary output, which means on, off, on, off, on, off. So
Hmm.
we can think of a flickering light or anything like that. And I'm going to tell you, oh, it is that frequency, but that frequency really is not necessarily a wave shape.
Hmm.
I hope I'm not. I hope if someone's falling asleep right now, I hope you're in delta sleep and the wave is fantastic. So I'm sorry if I bore anyone, but this is actually a pretty important point that I would like you to let me know if I understand correctly. The concern with most, let's say, TENS units, okay,
Hmm.
red light therapy that has a wave pattern that you can go to, PEMF mats, and we can go on and on and on with any device that creates a wave pattern. The problem most of the time, it's not a real wave pattern. It's a start stop pattern, which is
Or
not
they're
native to the body.
or they're you've seen NASA studies with using sawtooth and box waves and different non-native
Hmm.
frequencies to the body, and it's just something that the body has to, again, figure out how to adapt to.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain, and not I think, there is a certain level of stress, stress, positive stress on the body. We
Hmm.
have an innate and an adaptive immune system that needs to respond to stress to get stronger, right?
Yeah.
But when the body's constantly under chronic stress, giving something, and this is, again, you can look, I don't think nature made a mistake. I don't think anyone's arguing about that now, because we wouldn't still be around as a species if it did.
Yeah.
I feel like we've sustained because of our adaptability. But stressing the body beyond, like what we're seeing with these chronically elevated levels of stress, which I see with every client that walks through my door, is the biggest problem that we're trying to overcome. We're trying to
Yeah.
help them make this shift. So why give the body something else it has to adapt to that's non-native, like a sawtooth wave or a box wave or these flickering lights that
Yeah.
we're looking
So,
at these screens
so
all
just
day?
to give anyone listening the idea, sawtooth means ramping up, shutting down, and starting at the bottom again, ramping up. So you're creating a type of like a
It's
saw
like,
type motion. And a box wave is start immediately in like speed 10,
yeah, just
maintain it there for a second, yeah, and then come stop it. But that's kind of what I described before. So sawtooth is something normally with electricity we see. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa, and with any kind of electric stimulation and light devices, normally we see like a box wave pattern, which both really do not exist in nature, right?
They don't. So the what's coming out of our walls right now is a 60 hertz frequency.
Hmm.
And we hear a lot about EMF. So
Yeah.
PEMF, completely different than EMFs. Electromagnetic fields are what's creating DNA damage in our body because it's not native and it's bombarding our body constantly, whether it's Wi-Fi in our homes, our
Yeah.
cell phones being in close proximity to us, or dealing with 5G, which is now completely blanketed all of our cities and putting our bodies, we're exposed to these frequencies all the time.
Yeah.
So the more help that we can give the body to come back to, whether we're going out in nature and actually unplugging from
Yeah.
these dense EMF frequencies, or having tools like a PEMF mat with Schumann resonance frequencies that's harmonizing to the body, the better off our body's going to be able to withstand and
Hmm.
adapt to all the negative frequencies that we're being bombarded with, and be able to again regenerate on its own. um, Again, like that's why we chose to do the extremely low frequencies, so the body, you're not having this risk, these high intensity devices when you're talking about this start stop pattern.
Yeah.
um, these are short duration times that people will go in somewhere for a treatment.
Yeah.
And our mat, again, is designed for someone to experience. And even still, we have 20-minute programs that run 20 minutes on and 40 minutes off. The way we designed it is so the user can't overpulse themselves.
Uh-huh.
So you're experiencing this and then it's backing off. You're experiencing the pulses and it's backing off. And it's all completely shielded while you're on the mat from those harmful EMFs we've been talking about.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get back to that in a little bit later. But let me ask you a few. So we've kind of talked about how PMF mats in general work, how you've designed yours. Which, by the way, I was very pleased, not only by the fact that the mat is 6'3", it's also by the width of the mat. It's probably the widest mat I've encountered, and we talked a little bit about like sleeping on it. I'd assume that would be significantly important there. And then we spoke a little bit about just using it for general health.
Hmm.
What about let's talk a little bit, and we even talked a little bit about why it's going to help our skin specifically. Um, but within people's skin journey, there
Hmm.
really are a few different things that people want to achieve. So we can start with general health and resilience.
Hmm.
Within using the mat, how would someone use it on a day-to-day basis, as you mentioned, for general health and resilience, obviously, which would again affect the skin, but as a general term.
Hmm. So, with or without the mat, one of the best things that you can do when you wake up in the morning is to tune your frequency for the day.
Hmm.
Now, by frequency, I mean you're setting your vibration. And we've all been in an experience where the alarm's gone off in the morning. We had a rough night of sleep. We wake up, we stub our toe on the bed, we spill our coffee. Like there's like this cascade of things that are happening that hold us at a vibration of frustration, right? So
Hmm.
I'm going to make an example here. Universe or life or like your day-to-day basis, you're going to be met with a similar vibrational frequency that'll mirror what you're shining out into the world. So if you've been on that trajectory, the faster that you can interrupt that program, come back to self and elevate your frequency to be mirrored at contentment, joy, happiness. So like whatever you are elevating your frequency to based
Hmm.
upon your thoughts and feeling, you can do this by interrupting the program in your day-to-day life. I'm getting back to, I just want
Yeah.
to help people understand like what vibration and frequency is and how much we have control over our day-to-day life, essentially our destiny, what we're manifesting in our
Yeah.
reality. So we can program our reality and interrupt those programs. Where imagine like the happiest day that you've ever had and something that will bring a smile to your face, like that feeling. You're actively shifting your vibration on a conscious level. So if we're living in this energetic universe and you
Super.
have control of your vibrational frequency. When you're meeting a technology like the PEMF mat, if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling tired or you're sore from your workout before, your body's aching, whatever it might be, you can get on the mat at that higher level of hertz frequency we were talking about before, that higher setting, that's going to help actively bring more energy into the body. So you're
Hmm.
actively on like a human charging pad. So widest, tallest mat, whether it's you yourself, whether you're cuddling with your partner, or you're just taking up all the space, you are wrapping yourself in this bubble of these essentially wellness frequencies.
Hmm.
So they're going into the body, and you're taking a moment for yourself to then actively send out to the universe, what do you want to manifest for that day? So it's a way for people within 60 seconds, because the frequencies, you press the button and it turns on.
Hmm.
They're toroidal coils, so they're coming out from the mat and going back into the mat. So they're sending these calming, gentle frequencies into the body that are palpable. You can
Hmm.
feel the frequencies in the mat. I think you had the ability to lay
Yeah.
on the mat when you were here the other week. So
Yeah.
you got to experience what it feels like in your body. So you take a couple seconds for yourself to just breathe into that. And it's, again, it's not something that you need to go learn how to meditate. You're taking 30 minutes to an hour out of your day. Take 60 seconds for yourself. Meet your body where it's at. And the beautiful thing is that you, as the user, can put yourself in the driver's seat to say, hey, I'm going to set my frequency and see what my body is resonating with. Like, oh, this feels good. Oh,
Hmm.
this isn't resonating with me right now. And you get to choose. So that's the beautiful thing about how we designed it, is to have that user interface where, yes, you have that experience in the morning where you need an amplification of energy, or I'm coming home at night, I've had a long day, my brain is still running full of all the ideas and the conversations that I had, and I want to calm it down. I can meet my body where it's at, and then there's a program to help me actually step down back to that 7.83, that earth's frequency, that heartbeat, that homeostasis point, where I can come back and show up, not with work on my mind, and I can come home and shift gears. So I think that was really important for us, noticing how us as entrepreneurs and practitioners, how we were showing up in our day to day, and how we
Hmm.
wanted to create a device to help more people do what they want to do with their life and actively be present for it.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I love the idea. It's very rare to find things in our lives that are positive, that we can make one conscious choice and affect our state. Normally, we can do two things, all right? We can work on our state consistently, create a habit or whatever that is,
Mhm.
and that is kind of long term. Or we can do normally things that affect our state, with one choice are negative, right?
Like a
I'm
split
upset,
decision that changes
whatever.
your
Yeah,
life.
yeah, exactly. So it's a beautiful thing to press a button, the not even a proverbial button, a real button, and change your state, which is very unique to frequencies. I feel like. What about people who are undergoing a challenge? And I'll even challenge you to two different scenarios. A
Mhm,
lot of people are, in appearance, in beauty, in the beauty world, we normally are in a state where we want to keep what we have,
mhm,
or we take on a project, right? Oh, I'm going to do this and that, right? Like, I don't like a specific thing, and I'm going to invest in whatever procedure that is.
mhm,
Or, again, a lot of the questions I get when I talk about, you know skin in different podcasts are, what are your opinions about, I kind of got a lot of questions when I said that lasers, you really should think twice before you go ahead and do a cosmetic laser.
mhm,
But what I really meant is that you need to address it like a project. So that is one question that I have. How do we support that, intense healing that we kind of triggered
mhm.
with something like the PMF mat? And the other thing is, how do we support different, I would say, health challenges, not only, you know keeping ourselves in homeostasis, but how do we
Mhm.
kind of bring ourselves to homeostasis if we're not there?
Yeah, so both of those can be addressed in a very similar fashion.
Yeah.
I'm supportive whatever my client wants to do. I mean, yes, there is a word of caution when someone wants to alter their appearance, but ultimately, what the mind believes, the body achieves. So
Hmm.
if whatever someone is choosing to do is making them think and feel better about themselves,
Yeah.
ultimately their healing journey, their health outcomes, all of that is going to be more positively benefited because of how they think, feel, and believe about it.
Yeah.
As a tool, again, coming back to the 50 years of PEMF research, we've actually looked at wavelength intensity of these pulsed electromagnetic field therapy frequencies to help heal the body, right? Healing from
Yeah.
pain, but pain from what? Whether it's a self-induced wound, like if we're going to get a laser treatment or something of such, or we actually have an injury.
Yeah.
So it's rallying our body from beyond a biological state, but this is like physics. So we're talking about like this electron exchange where
Hmm.
it's the free radical oxidative species, whether we're talking about a pathogen in the body or even just our body. Like, so we have a cell and we have, thousands of mitochondria inside a cell. Just by the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell making energy, it creates oxidative stress in
Yeah.
the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just by existing, just by breathing, respirating, like this is a process that happens with the
Just
body.
like money, you got to spend energy to create energy.
It's currency, right? It's an exchange. So what happens is, we're talking about, you've talked about all of these different modalities to help the body heal, whether it be like red light or cold therapy and all of that. Our body's adapting in this nervous system state to be able to compensate for it. So stressing the body in these different veins is fantastic, but having this like cumulative compounding
Yeah.
benefit of these positive frequencies to kind of override all of the stress that we put on the body. Like we're not living in a bubble. We're
Yeah.
constantly living in an environment that is filled with toxins. The toxins are ubiquitous in the environment, the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. So all of that is going to be constantly stressing the body. So we're not just talking about like beautiful mitochondria just respirating here. So we're counteracting all of the other
Hmm.
by helping people just take a moment for themselves and relaxing,
Yeah.
and then having the added benefit of the frequencies. So the body is going to shift the nervous system state. The frequencies help you do it better. And
Hmm.
the evidence that has been published on PEMF therapy to help heal wounds and even knit bones is about a 2x.
Wow.
So I can say that from the published research. I'm not speaking specifically about our technology, but
Yeah. So,
that's,
I have to speak. I have to speak here to give some context. The FDA doesn't allow, even if the frequencies are exactly the same, exactly, they are exactly the same. If it's not your device, the FDA doesn't allow you to say, this is what this, my device will do. And that's why you're, you're kind of putting that caveat.
yeah.
But we're imagining that's what you're saying. And we want to talk about, what science has shown that these specific frequencies are doing, just
Mhm.
to clear the air for
Yes.
everyone that would get confused by why you said that. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can speak anecdotally, but I cannot actually say that our device has, because our device was not the one that was used in those published medical research
Hmm.
studies. Put it
By
that
the way,
way.
that's part of the way that big fish remain big and small fish remain small. If you have $1 million to drop, you can say that. If not, then you can't. But yeah, go ahead. So you were saying, these frequencies, we can see a 2x improvement in the speed or the quality of bone healing.
And anecdotally, I'll go back there. In one 20-minute session that we have people on the device,
Hmm.
they feel a difference. There was an
Hmm.
88-year-old woman last week that one of our affiliates put a mat on her floor at her home. She's like, I have a really hard time getting up from the floor. She's in amazing health, but she's still 88 years old. She's 20 minutes later, she's like, it was remarkable how easily I got up from the floor. Like just it blew her own mind.
Hmm.
And I love having the feedback. So we've done all of the research. I'm an former aerospace engineer, so
Hmm.
that's first and foremost. My background is in research and science. So anecdotal really hasn't been in my vocabulary. But as we have been demoing this technology across the country, and most recently at A4M last month where we met,
Hmm.
I mean, these are people, especially at A4M, that have had multiple devices in their offices, have tried every resonant device. And the feedback that we're getting is still, I mean, like it blows my mind. And it's so exciting because we've created something that's really affecting positive change, and it's felt within the body.
So would you say fantastic? And obviously I'm one of them. You're here now. That's a testament to it. But so what would there be a difference between me, a person that just want to kind of have a general support to my health and wellness, to someone who's taking on a project, whatever that project may be, that boost of again, like this sprint, if you would, of renewal that I'm trying to induce in my body?
Yes. So again, our bodies are constantly changing moment to moment. So you, even in your day to day life, could have different frequencies that resonate with you at a
Hmm.
different point in
Hmm.
time. As far as someone that wants a specific protocol, a wellness protocol for what their project is,
Yeah.
they could be on the mat for a longer duration of time. So
Hmm.
it might not just be like a 20-minute session in the morning, a 20-minute session in the evening. They might actually want to be on it for upwards of 2 hours a day
Wow.
if they're looking to enhance their body's innate healing ability. Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, and you said upwards too, so that kind of segues me to the next kind of question. What about counter indications, or what about limits? What are the upper thresholds to that?
So the setting on the mat, like if you were to set the heat, it has a 12-hour heating setting. So it
Hmm.
would just stay warm and cozy for you to be able to just enjoy all day long.
Hmm.
The way that we've set up the PEMF function is to run in 20-minute cycles on and 40 minutes off. So you could be someone that's in a bed all
Hmm.
day and you could still enjoy these frequencies cycling on and off and they continue to loop 5 times.
Hmm.
So it's not something that you're going to overpulse yourself. We have clients that sleep on this. Like I said, for
Uh-huh.
deep sleep, they can keep the heat off. Everything's adjustable so they can just get the benefit of the frequencies. Because I don't really suggest anyone sleeping like and being sweating when they're sleeping. We want it cool, dark, and
Yeah.
all the things. But as far as coming to ELF, so extremely low frequencies, like the mat is, and intensity, it's not something that you're going to see a side effect from. It's more of side benefits. They compound as you use them.
Uh-huh.
So it's, again, when you're seeing a higher intensity or a higher frequency device, when you're looking at like something like an MRI, which is like
Hmm.
10,000 Gauss, which is a really high intensity device. You obviously don't want your body to be in that more than a couple times maybe in your lifetime, right?
Hmm.
So these are things, or even there are other companies out there that do amazing work in the space. You worked with Pulse. I'm sure you've
Yeah.
interviewed Pulse. They have higher intensity devices that, again, require a specific level of certification and training to be able to operate them for the positive benefit that they have to help heal the body at such an accelerated pace. But overuse of that can actually have, like you're talking about, these side effects, these negative effects on the
Yeah.
body. That is where we shine in having a low intensity device because it's really easy to user interface and really difficult for someone to have any harm on
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, it's again, it's very interesting because not Pulse, by the way. Pulse, we didn't have them on yet because Pulse is kind of all over the place, but a great company. I love them. But another wave-based device that is very popular. I'm not going to mention the name because I'm not going to say something positive now. I'm going to say something a little scary. Um, but there are stories of practitioners that are not trained well, that take a device that is supposed to support your nervous system or enhance your nervous system and treat and heal your nervous system, and actually damages that nerve beyond repair. So that is something that, again, when we talk about waves that interact with the body, we
Yeah.
it's very important. So what you're saying
It's
is pretty cool.
interesting. You were
Uh,
talking about tens a little bit ago, and that's
yeah.
where you see a pain reduction, but it's sending a stimulation, a pulse into the body to blunt the pain response. It's
Yeah.
not actually cultivating a healing response. It's not actually amplifying the the reservoir of
It breeds
energy.
confusion.
Yeah.
It basically is it is a confusing signal to your nerve rather than any type of healing.
It's interesting. You can liken it to like giving the body a hormone, like maybe testosterone or something
Hmm.
for a teenager that already has an amplified level of testosterone and then he supplements synthetically. Well, the body's like, oh, that's confusing. Maybe I don't need to make my own natural reserves and it
Hmm.
dumps them.
Yeah.
So when the body's seeing something synthetically delivered to it, and it has too much of something, it's going to downregulate its natural
Hmm. Hmm.
reserves. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like, oh, too much of a good thing is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually see it with many of the peptides. So obviously, peptides is a realm of healing, and but they are sitting on receptors that our body has for a reason. That it uses them on a day to day. So if we don't pulse them correctly, we're gonna. And by the way, most peptides. So that's why peptides in skincare are. In most cases, they don't do anything. But if you do it really well, they do they do a little bit because your other choice is just burning off those receptors. So what about people who are, let's say pregnant women? Is there any counterindication when we talk about pregnant women?
So the contraindication for an extremely low frequency device would be anyone that's got a pacemaker
Hmm.
or any sort of electronic device
Yeah.
implanted in their body. Even though, again, like you would say, maybe like not using a smartphone or a device, like, they're completely fine to utilize on the mat. So again, with an extremely low frequency device, I cannot give my blessing to say someone with an implant like that to use it, even like a glucose monitor or pump, not a
Hmm.
monitor, but like the pump.
Yeah.
Work with a lot of type 1 diabetics that have pumps.
Hmm.
So we haven't seen an issue with that, but I can't, they'd have to be utilizing it at their own risk. As far as pregnant women, um, they can lay on the mat with the frequencies off
Yeah.
and then get clearance from their doctor. Again, that
Hmm.
would be on a case by case basis. But again, there's such, I would say, as far as being Schumann resonance frequencies, these are things that we're getting natively from the earth. If we're actually walking outside without our shoes on and getting barefoot, that Schumann resonance does vary vastly to even higher hertz frequency than what we're being
Yeah.
exposed to with the mat.
So what you're saying mostly is the fact that it hasn't been studied specifically for that is what kind of prevents you from saying,
It hasn't been
go ahead.
studied at all,
Hmm.
actually,
Yeah.
with pregnant women. So that's why the caveat is there that you would basically, it's
Yeah.
not contraindicated, but there are no studies showing that it's
Hmm.
beneficial or neutral.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, Alyssa, as again, kind of coming to a close, I have to say, this is definitely a subject that has probably less to do with skin health specifically coming into this, like classically, than most of our podcasts. But I think we've kind of shown how something like frequencies, if your end goal is in the end of the day walking around and getting compliments, that's something that you should definitely incorporate into your day-to-day routine. uh, One thing I would say, maybe to close, a closing statement, is a lot of the things that I expect us to talk about in the future of skin health is something called autofluorescence, which means the way that we kind of emit infrared from our body
Hmm.
is a byproduct of mitochondrial function and healthy, vibrant skin. And that is something that definitely ELF and EMF frequencies can support and enhance. And we highly recommend it when you want to, support your natural healing. And I super enjoyed our conversation today. You're obviously extremely intelligent and and a wealth of knowledge. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. You bring the science out of me. So I hope the listeners enjoyed. Healing begins within. Like you want
Uh-huh.
beautiful skin and you want to radiate that outwards. That anti-aging and cultivating that response happens within the body and then it shines out.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
all of that is our birthright to be able to regenerate and heal. And we just have tools to help us do it better now.
Amen. Well, thank you very much, Alyssa. Thank you, everyone who were listening, and we will see you here next time.
Thank you.
That was an incredible conversation with Alyssa Blue. Um, I hope it was interesting to you as much as it was interesting to me. Before we end today's episode, I wanted to answer some of our listeners' questions. If you would like your questions answered, the best way to get them answered is by adding them to a review that you write on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you really listen to this podcast. Um, that would guarantee that we answer it when we have a topic that relates to it, or actually as soon as possible. The first question I would like to answer today is what causes my skin to age prematurely? So that's something that we've kind of touched on in the past, but it's important to know that 20% of what drives skin aging is intrinsic, which means from the inside out, which means what we eat, how we treat our body from the inside, the way that we drive aging holistically in the body. 80% is extrinsic. It means damage caused by the environment, which depends where we are in the world and what we're exposed to. But if we're in the Western world, um, the environmental pollution and toxins actually are a more significant driver than UV damage and radiation, and that's for many different factors. But you can imagine that we evolved to have about 80% of our life lived outdoors. Obviously, why do we say 80? It's because we hunkered down when the sun was very high in the sky, and the light was very um, belligerent, if you would. UV light was very strong. So, but for the most part, we stayed outdoors, and that is why we recommend, not to be under the sun, between 10 to 4 uh, during the day. But we can't really. But nowadays, we are on average 95% indoors. So obviously, that is not in Western society not a huge driver. The majority is pollution, blue light, artificial blue light, um, EMF, heavy metals, glyphosates, things that attach to our skin, irritate the skin, tax it, create oxidative stress. So that is as far as this is concerned. Again, to put our money where our mouth is, and the reason it took us about 4 years to develop our sunblock, BioShield SPF 40, it's because we made a product that protects you from blue light, from UV light, but it also protects you from the damaging effects of artificial blue light, EMF, pollution, heavy metals, all the things that we mentioned before. So that is, to show you that we mean business. Um, the second question: how long does it take to see results from anti-aging products? Great question. Um, and I think we can answer it in you know, we can think of what does it mean exactly anti-aging. Um, First of all, it's important to know that a person's skin type, the severity of aging signs, and the consistency of use, they're all factors. Uh, Now, what are anti-aging products? There aren't really anti-aging products. There is a reason that we're changing the entire communication from anti-aging to pro-youth, because anti-aging means that we're resisting aging. That would be your sunblock. Okay, that's anti-aging. But you can't see result from resisting aging, can you? Just not exacerbation of aging. Having said that, just to answer really what the person asking it really meant is, how fast can I see results from products that stimulate renewal in a way which my skin would appear younger? And that depends on how much renewal is being stimulated, how long does it take to recover from it. Our cells take about 21 to 28 days to turn over, to renew. And that's a good period to aim at when we think of seeing results or increments of that or multiplications of that. So 1 month, 2 months, or 6 weeks to 8 weeks really is where we would like to see results with an introduction of a new therapy. Um, Having said that, first of all, we need to make sure our body is fit, our skin is fit to deal with that stimulation. So the stronger the stimulation, the more resources, the more able the skin needs to be in order to recover well from it. And now the question is, what do we pay for long term? Because if the skin, as long as the skin is not youthful in its function, what we call biological age, but we like to call functional age, um, the less well it's going to, or the less fundamentally sound would that repair be. So if we wanted to, create another room in our house, or if we wanted to destroy a wall in the house, will we want something that takes longer to build that other room, to create a nice opening in our house? Or would we like it to be fast and unstable and not functional? And that is the difference between fundamental change, or if we create fibrous recovery, fibrous scaffolding in our skin. And a lot of the things that people do nowadays, whether it is laser, radio frequency, microneedling, whatever that is, I'm not here to tell you if it's good or bad. We can definitely talk about that in different podcasts. But what I'm saying is that it exceeds the skin's ability to respond to that in an optimal fashion. So we need to make sure that we're doing every other kind of strategy around it. Today we had one strategy that could definitely help, but we need to make sure that we have our NAD levels right. We need to make sure that our epigenetic information is dialed in. We need to make sure that we don't have any metals in our mouth that create, chronic inflammation. We need to make sure that we don't have any leaky gut issues that create chronic inflammation. We need to make sure we quickly repair our skin barrier, and we don't create something that's called leaky skin, and that is because environmental factors are going to then irritate our skin and kind of disrupt that good repair. So there are many things that need to be dialed in correctly. Am I trying to scare you from doing any of those interventions, any of those stimuli? No, but you need to make sure that that stimuli is in relation to your overall health and your ability to repair, and how much you're willing to invest in that sprint. I also said it in the podcast today. This sprint that you're engaging in as far as repair. How much energy, mental energy, are you investing in supporting that? Okay, so you need to make sure you are doing that. As far as products specifically, again, do we want something that's going to increase our um, long-term skin health, or are we really just interested in a wedding that we have in a couple of months and we want to look a little bit better? I would suggest uh, former rather than the latter, but let me know if you want me to expand on that. Number three, are there any lifestyle changes that can help with aging? Well, this is what this podcast is about, really, lifestyle changes that can help with aging. But let me give you a general discussion, or a general, sorry, not discussion, but the general guideline. What we want to do is we want to improve our sleep. We want to eat food that does not create inflammation. I'm not going into paradigms of what kind of diet we need to have, but lower inflammation is better if we want to improve skin aging. We want to be active. Okay, it means that movement improves blood flow and lymphatic drainage, which is very important for the skin. And we want to supplement in a way which um, covers deficiencies. So that could be just, if we really want something really broad stroke, like a good multivitamin, or if we want something more specific, we can take a genetic test, see what genes, you know, are not optimal, and we supplement to cover those deficiencies aside from trying to cover deficiencies, which we know everyone has deficiencies from food. No one gets enough um, you know nutrients in their diet. Yeah, but that is kind of very broad stroke things that can help. But yeah, that's all from us today, from me today. Again, if you want your questions answered, the best way to do it is to leave a review and a question within that review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you're listening to this podcast. This greatly increases our visibility. I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this podcast because it was suggested to them through a platform. So the only way that's going to be the future of this podcast, the only way we can get to more people, is that if you leave a review, if you uh, subscribe. So please do that. It supports us. It supports people who would benefit from this information. And thank you very much for sticking around until now. And we'll see you everyone here on our next podcast. Take care.